stop for a moment and pay attention to what you are feeling right now. Not tomorrow, not later, but in this exact instant. Because there are certain moments in life that appear ordinary on the surface, while carrying a significance far greater than we can immediately understand. This is one of those moments. The fact that your eyes landed here, the fact that something inside you felt compelled to keep listening, is not something your logical mind can easily explain away. There is a deeper current moving beneath the visible events of your life, and whether you realize it or not, that current has been guiding you toward this point for a very long time. Somewhere beyond the noise of daily responsibilities, beyond the distractions and endless demands placed upon you, there has been an unseen process unfolding. A process that has been quietly examining who you are when no one is watching, how you respond when life becomes difficult, and whether your spirit remains intact when circumstances seem determined to wear you down. And right now, chosen one, you are standing at the edge of a realization that changes everything. The strange thing about true transformation is that it rarely announces itself. It does not arrive with instructions. It does not come with a clear explanation telling you why certain experiences are happening. Instead, it often arrives disguised as disappointment, uncertainty, and confusion. Think back to the seasons of your life that made the least sense, the moments when opportunities vanished without warning, the times when people you trusted suddenly became distant, the periods when it felt as though every step forward was met by another obstacle. You searched for reasons. You searched for reasons. You searched for answers. You tried to understand why life seemed to demand so much from you while giving so little in return. What you could not see then was that those experiences were serving a purpose far beyond what appeared on the surface. They were challenges that entered your life without explanation, situations that seemed unfair, circumstances that left you questioning your worth and wondering whether all your effort mattered at all. You found yourself surrounded by individuals who could not understand what you were carrying internally. You attempted to explain your vision, your feelings, your intuition, only to discover that many people simply could not meet you where you stood. And perhaps the hardest moments were not the public struggles, perhaps they were the private ones. The moments when support disappeared precisely when you needed it most. The moments when silence answered your prayers. The moments when you sat alone, wondering how much longer you could continue carrying burdens no one else could see. Yet every time life placed you in those situations, something remarkable happened. Even when exhaustion settled into your bones, you continued moving forward. Even when disappointment tempted you to become bitter, you held onto your character. Even when surrender seemed easier than persistence, you chose to keep going. At the time, those decisions may have seemed small, they may have felt invisible, but on a level beyond ordinary perception, they carried enormous significance. Every choice revealed something about the strength of your spirit. Every setback revealed something about your endurance. Every painful experience revealed something about your capacity to remain true to yourself despite pressure from the outside world. What felt like random hardship was actually revealing who you were becoming, and now you were beginning to understand something that once seemed impossible to see. The losses you experienced were not always losses. Many of them were adjustments. There is a profound difference between being abandoned and being redirected. When you look back honestly, you may notice how relationships that once felt essential gradually drifted away. Conversations that once energized you began to feel hollow. Environments that once felt comfortable suddenly felt restrictive. Familiar places started carrying an unfamiliar energy. At first, this felt painful because the human heart naturally wants stability. It wants certainty. It wants to hold on to what it knows. But what if those shifts were not evidence that something was wrong? What if they were evidence that something was changing within you? The path unfolding before you was never meant to accommodate every person from your past. Some journeys require space, some callings require separation, some transformations require the removal of distractions that once seemed important. The frequency you are moving toward demands a different level of awareness, a different relationship with yourself, and a different understanding of what truly matters. Because of that, life began removing what no longer aligned with the person you are becoming, not as punishment, not as rejection, but as preparation. There are struggles you survived that nobody fully witnessed. There were nights when uncertainty felt heavier than anything you had ever carried. There were moments when fear whispered convincing arguments about why you should stop trying. There were moments when discouragement wrapped itself around your thoughts and attempted to convince you that your efforts were meaningless, and yet somehow, despite everything, you remained standing. That is the part of your story that deserves recognition, not the victories other people saw, not the accomplishments that received attention. The real strength was developed in the moments nobody applauded. It was built in silence. It was forged in isolation. It was strengthened through battles that existed entirely within your own heart and mind. Every tear you refused to let define you mattered. Every setback you survived mattered. Every morning you chose to rise despite carrying emotional weight mattered. None of it was overlooked. None of it was insignificant. Those moments became the foundation upon which your future is being built. What once appeared to be meaningless suffering was actually shaping the resilience necessary for the next stage of your journey. The test was never about perfection. It was about perseverance. It was about whether you would continue moving forward when no reward was visible. And now, chosen one, you are arriving at the point where that period reaches its conclusion. This is why the energy surrounding June 11th carries such importance. This date represents more than symbolism. It marks a threshold within your personal timeline, a point where one chapter gradually releases its hold and another begins to emerge. The delays that once seemed permanent begin losing their power. The resistance that once blocked progress begins weakening. The confusion that clouded your vision begins giving way to understanding. But what is arriving is not merely an external reward. It is not simply about circumstances improving around you. It is about an internal alignment that finally allows your outer reality to reflect what has been developing inside you all along. For so long you searched for meaning within the chaos. You asked questions that seemed to disappear into silence. You wondered whether your efforts were leading anywhere. You questioned whether a greater intelligence was guiding your path or whether life was simply unfolding without purpose. Those questions were not ignored. Every moment of seeking carried significance. Every request for guidance was heard. Every silent prayer, every whispered hope, every attempt to understand what was happening around you became part of a larger conversation unfolding beyond your awareness. And now, as divine timing aligns with your current position on this journey, the answers begin arriving in a form you can finally recognize. The message reaching you now serves as confirmation that you were never wandering without direction. Even during periods when you felt completely lost, unseen forces were arranging experiences that would ultimately contribute to your growth. During the moments when loneliness seemed overwhelming, there was still a presence accompanying you. You may not have recognized it. You may not have understood it. Yet it remained there, guiding, protecting, redirecting, supporting you through situations that could have broken you completely. Think about the moments when everything seemed ready to collapse. Think about the times when you felt close to your limit. Somehow, despite the severity of those experiences, you survived. Somehow, you continued. Somehow, you found the strength to take one more step. That was not an accident. It was evidence that your journey has been protected in ways you could not fully see. Because your path carries a purpose that extends beyond immediate circumstances. It is intentional, it is guarded, it remains connected to a destiny that has not been altered by the setbacks, disappointments, or delays you encountered. No matter what happened behind you, what lies ahead remains available to you. It has been waiting patiently for the moment when you become ready to claim it fully. And recently, whether you can explain it or not, you have begun noticing subtle evidence that something is changing. The reactions that once controlled you no longer possess the same power. Situations that once drained your energy now seem strangely distant. Emotional triggers that once dominated your thoughts no longer create the same level of disturbance. There is a growing calm emerging where turbulence once existed. There is a quiet sense of separation from old patterns that previously felt impossible to escape. This is not emotional shutdown. It is not indifference. It is not numbness. It is the sign of elevation. Your energy is moving beyond the level where those old cycles could continue controlling your experience. And while this new state may feel unfamiliar, while part of you may still be adjusting to it, understand that this shift is evidence that the transformation you have been preparing for is already underway. The chapter ahead requires this new version of you, and what you are feeling now is the first unmistakable sign that you are becoming ready for it. Pay close attention because what is happening in your life right now may appear confusing on the surface, yet beneath that uncertainty, a profound transformation is taking place. Many people mistake this stage for loss, instability, or even failure. They see familiar structures falling away and immediately assume something is going wrong. But if you are listening to this message, you need to understand that what you are experiencing is not a collapse, it is a realignment. The version of you that is emerging cannot continue operating within the same energetic framework that once defined your life. The person you were months ago is not the person standing here today. Your perspective has changed, your awareness has deepened, your spirit has expanded. Because of that, the universe is now adjusting every part of your reality to match the level you are stepping into. This adjustment is not always comfortable. In fact, it can feel deeply unsettling because it often begins by removing things that once felt secure. You may have noticed certain routines losing their appeal. Habits that once occupied your attention now seem exhausting. Activities that once brought comfort may suddenly feel empty. Relationships that seemed permanent may begin drifting away without explanation. Even environments that once felt familiar may start feeling strangely disconnected from who you are becoming. At first, this can create fear because the human mind naturally clings to what it recognizes. Familiarity feels safe even when it no longer serves us. Yet what is happening now is not a punishment. It is not evidence that your life is falling apart. It is evidence that your life is being refined. There comes a point in every major transformation when old energies can no longer survive within a new level of awareness. The patterns that once defined your choices begin weakening. The emotional cycles that once controlled your reactions begin losing their influence. Attachments that once felt necessary begin dissolving. Sometimes this process unfolds gradually. Other times, it happens so suddenly that it leaves you questioning everything. But regardless of how it appears, the purpose remains the same. The universe is clearing away what no longer belongs in the future you are moving toward. Every chapter has its purpose. Every lesson has its season. Every connection teaches something valuable. Yet not everything that teaches you is meant to stay with you forever. Some experiences are designed to shape you and then leave. Some relationships are designed to awaken you and then fade. Some struggles exist only long enough to reveal your strength. What is departing now has already completed its assignment in your life. It gave you what you needed. It helped build the person you are becoming. And now it is stepping aside to create room for something more aligned with your current frequency. If you've been paying attention, you may already feel a powerful shift building beneath the surface of your reality. It is difficult to explain logically because it does not begin in the physical world. It begins in energy. There is a sense of anticipation surrounding you, as though something important is approaching. You may feel moments of excitement that arrive without explanation. You may notice an unusual feeling of expectation, almost as if your spirit already knows something your conscious mind has not yet discovered. This sensation is not imaginary. It is the energetic signature of a reward beginning to activate. Every challenge you survived contributed to this moment. Every time you chose growth instead of comfort, every time you remained authentic despite pressure to become someone else, every time you refused to abandon your values even when compromise seemed easier, those decisions created momentum. They created a foundation, and now that foundation is preparing to support something new. What is approaching is not random fortune. It is not an accidental blessing falling from the sky. It is a response to the person you have become through your experiences. There is a profound difference between receiving something you are unprepared for and receiving something you have grown into. What is entering your life now belongs to the second category. You have been shaped for it. You have been prepared for it. You have been developing the awareness required to recognize it and the maturity required to sustain it. This is the season where effort begins meeting visible results, the season where patience starts producing evidence, the season where faith is no longer forced to exist without confirmation. Yet perhaps the most important reward is not external at all. It is the recognition of your own value. It is finally understanding the depth of your resilience. It is seeing yourself through a lens free from the limitations that once defined your identity. Because of this shift, events may begin unfolding faster than you expect. Situations that appeared frozen may suddenly start moving. Opportunities that seemed impossible may emerge unexpectedly. Connections that once required effort may begin forming naturally. You may find yourself standing before open doors that did not exist before. To an outside observer, these developments may look like luck. They may appear sudden, but you know better. These opportunities are appearing now because you have finally reached the level of readiness required to receive them. The delay was never a denial. The timing was never punishment. Preparation was taking place behind the scenes, and now that preparation is complete, the path ahead begins revealing itself. Yet as these opportunities appear, another responsibility emerges alongside them. You must choose whether you are willing to move forward. Open doors alone do not create transformation. Walking through them does. This requires courage. It requires trust. It requires releasing attachment to what has already ended. Many people remain trapped in old chapters because they spend too much time looking backward. They continue mourning doors that closed while ignoring the ones opening directly in front of them. You are being called to do something different. You are being called to step forward without hesitation, to trust that what awaits you carries more potential than anything you are leaving behind. Because what is approaching is not merely another opportunity. It is a continuation of the destiny you have been preparing for all along. Ironically, just before everything fully opens, many people encounter one final challenge. This often creates confusion because it seems to contradict the progress being made. You may feel as though life is testing you one last time. You may find yourself facing a familiar situation, an old emotional trigger, or a circumstance that resembles a battle you thought you had already overcome. The temptation is to interpret this as resistance. The temptation is to assume that you are being pushed backward. But that interpretation would miss the deeper truth. The final challenge is not designed to stop your progress. It exists to confirm your transformation. It gives you an opportunity to demonstrate how much you have grown. It asks you to respond differently than you once would have. It invites you to choose wisdom where you once chose reaction, to choose clarity where confusion once ruled, to choose courage where fear once held authority. And when you do, something remarkable happens. The energetic resistance dissolves. The lesson completes itself. The lesson completes itself. The path opens fully, and what has been waiting for you begins moving toward you with undeniable momentum. At the same time, another shift is occurring within you. There is a voice becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. It does not shout. It does not demand attention. Yet somehow it speaks with a certainty that feels stronger than logic itself. This voice is your intuition. It is the guidance system that has always existed within you, now becoming clearer because your awareness is expanding. You may notice yourself sensing outcomes before they occur. You may feel drawn toward decisions that make little sense on paper, yet feel completely right in your spirit. You may become increasingly sensitive to the difference between what aligns with you and what does not. This heightened perception is not accidental. It is evidence that your connection to higher guidance is strengthening. The more you trust it, the more accurately it will lead you. There is also a deeper reason why your journey has unfolded the way it has. Many people misunderstand what it means to be chosen. They imagine it means superiority. They imagine it means superiority. They imagine it means being favored above others. But that is not the truth. Being chosen means being capable of carrying a particular assignment. It means possessing the resilience required for a certain path. It means having the depth necessary to transform adversity into wisdom. Every challenge you endured contributed to that capacity. Every struggle refined it. Every period of uncertainty strengthened it. None of your experiences were meaningless. They were shaping you into someone capable of handling what comes next. The path was never supposed to be easy. Its value comes from its purpose, and now that purpose is beginning to reveal itself more clearly than ever before. At some point during this process, something subtle happened inside you. It may have gone unnoticed at the time. There was no dramatic announcement, no visible marker identifying the moment. Yet your soul remembers it. There came a point when you stopped trying to force life into submission, a point when you became exhausted from chasing validation, a point when you realized that constantly proving yourself was draining energy that could be used for something greater. Without fully recognizing it, you began choosing alignment over pursuit. You stopped running after what continually moved away from you. You stopped convincing yourself that struggle was the only path to achievement. And that decision changed everything. The universe responds differently to alignment than it does to desperation. Desperation contracts energy. Alignment expands it. Desperation creates resistance. Alignment creates flow. The moment you released your grip on outcomes, space opened. The moment you stopped forcing, movement began. What once seemed unreachable started moving closer. What once appeared distant began finding its way toward you naturally. This is the hidden power you have recently stepped into, and its significance is greater than you may realize. Others can feel this change even when they cannot explain it. There is a different quality to your presence now, a steadiness, a calm confidence, a quiet strength that does not require attention in order to exist. Situations that once disrupted your peace no longer possess the same influence. You observe more carefully. You react less impulsively. You carry yourself differently because you have become different. This transformation was not created overnight. It was earned through every lesson, every challenge, every difficult choice that demanded growth over comfort. As a result, your energy has become magnetic. It naturally attracts what belongs while gently repelling what does not. It creates opportunities without force. It shifts relationships without confrontation. It allows your value to be recognized without constant explanation. And as this evolution continues, another gift begins arriving. Clarity. The truths that once hid behind confusion begin emerging into view. Patterns you failed to notice before suddenly become obvious. Behaviors that once puzzled you start making perfect sense. Experiences from your past reveal lessons you could not previously understand. At first, this level of clarity can feel overwhelming because it removes the illusions that once protected you from uncomfortable realities. Yet this unveiling is essential. You cannot enter a new chapter while interpreting your past through outdated perceptions. The veil is lifting. The uncertainty is fading, and although some revelations may challenge what you thought you knew, they are guiding you toward a deeper understanding of yourself, your journey, and the future that is now unfolding before you. What if the thing you have been fearing is no longer behind you but already losing its grip on you? Take a moment to consider that possibility. For so long, certain memories seemed capable of pulling you backward without warning. A single thought could reopen an old wound. A familiar reminder could awaken emotions you believed had already been buried. There were chapters of your life that carried such emotional weight that it felt impossible to imagine ever becoming free from them. Some experiences lingered in your mind long after they ended. Some disappointments followed you like shadows. Some wounds seemed woven into your identity itself. Yet something remarkable has been happening beneath the surface, something so gradual that you may not have fully recognized it until now. The past has stopped holding the same authority over your life. The memories still exist, the lessons still remain, but the emotional chains attached to them have weakened. You can revisit those moments without becoming trapped inside them. You can remember without reliving. You can reflect without collapsing into old pain. That shift represents a level of growth that cannot be handed to someone through advice or explanation. It is earned through experience. It is earned through healing. It is earned through repeatedly choosing to move forward, even when part of you wanted to remain attached to what was already over. This is one of the clearest signs that your transformation is real. The past did not disappear. It simply lost the ability to define who you are today. And because that burden is no longer weighing down your spirit, a new sense of direction is emerging, one rooted in clarity, purpose, and confidence rather than fear. At the same time, another fascinating development has been unfolding around you. The universe has been communicating not through dramatic announcements, but through subtle patterns that have gradually become more difficult to dismiss. At first, these moments seem small, a recurring symbol, a sequence of numbers appearing repeatedly, a conversation arriving at exactly the right time, a confirmation showing up moments after you asked a question internally. Individually, each event could be explained away, yet together they form something much larger. They create a pattern that feels too precise to ignore. You may have caught yourself pausing and wondering how certain events could align so perfectly. You may have noticed moments that felt orchestrated in a way logic struggled to explain. These experiences are not arriving to confuse you. They are arriving to remind you that guidance has been present all along. The more conscious you become, the more frequently these signals seem to appear. It almost feels as though reality itself begins responding to your awareness. In many ways, that is exactly what is happening. Your sensitivity is increasing, your connection is deepening, your ability to recognize guidance is becoming stronger. The signs were always there. The difference is that now you are finally in a position to notice them. Their purpose is not to create dependency. Their purpose is reassurance. They serve as gentle reminders that even when you cannot see the entire road ahead, the journey is still unfolding exactly as it should. Yet, standing at the threshold of transformation often awakens one final obstacle: fear. Not because danger is present, but because growth always requires stepping beyond the limits of what feels familiar. Even now, there may be moments when doubt suddenly appears, moments when hesitation whispers that perhaps it is safer to remain where you are, moments when part of you feels tempted to retreat into old habits, old thinking patterns, or old versions of yourself simply because they are known territory. This response is completely natural. In fact, fear often becomes strongest right before a breakthrough. It emerges whenever you stand on the edge of something significant. It appears whenever your life is preparing to expand beyond its previous boundaries. But there is an important truth you must remember. This fear is not serving as a warning sign. It is serving as a final examination. It is the last voice of an outdated identity attempting to preserve itself. It is the final attempt by your old limitations to convince you that they are still necessary. Yet they are not. The version of you that once required those protections has already evolved. The version of you that needed to remain hidden has already outgrown that reality. The version of you that believed safety required remaining small no longer exists, and because of that, you are now being asked to continue forward despite the discomfort. Not because courage means the absence of fear, but because courage means trusting your path even when fear is present. Beyond that fear exists something extraordinary. There is a moment approaching, much closer than you realize, when uncertainty gives way to certainty. A moment when scattered pieces suddenly form a complete picture. A moment when the endless questioning stops because the answer becomes undeniable. You will no longer need external validation to confirm that you are moving in the right direction. You will feel it within yourself, not as excitement, not as temporary motivation, but as a deep, unshakable knowing. The power of that realization comes from its simplicity. It does not arrive through dramatic fireworks or overwhelming spectacle. It arrives through certainty, through stillness, through a quiet truth that settles so deeply within you that doubt can no longer compete with it. And once that moment arrives, everything begins operating differently. Your decisions become more intentional. Opportunities begin matching your true direction. Your path becomes easier to recognize because you are no longer fighting against it. This is not the conclusion of your story. It is the opening of a completely new chapter, one defined by greater confidence, stronger purpose, and a much clearer understanding of who you truly are. Looking back now, you can begin to recognize something that once seemed impossible to understand. What appeared to be chaos was never random destruction. What felt like everything falling apart was actually a carefully guided restructuring. There were seasons when it seemed as though life was removing things faster than it was providing answers. Dreams shifted. Plans changed. Relationships ended. Certainties disappeared. At the time, it felt painful and deeply unfair. Yet from your current perspective, a different truth is becoming visible. The structures that collapsed were never designed to support the next version of you. They belonged to a previous chapter. They were built for a different level of awareness. Had they remained intact, they would have restricted your growth rather than supported it. This is why they had to fall away. Not because you were being punished, not because you were failed, but because something stronger needed room to emerge. The universe never clears space without purpose. Every ending created an opening. Every loss removed an obstacle. Every uncertain moment contributed to the foundation being built beneath your feet. What once felt like destruction was actually preparation. What once felt like loss was actually reorganization. The foundation of your life was being rebuilt so it could support the level you are stepping into now. As this process continues, you may notice a new type of connection entering your life. These relationships will feel noticeably different from those that came before. There will be less effort, less confusion, less need to constantly prove your value. Instead of draining your energy, these connections will support it. Instead of requiring you to shrink yourself, they will encourage you to expand. Instead of creating uncertainty, they will create recognition. You will feel understood in ways that once seemed rare. Some of these people may only appear briefly, serving a specific purpose during an important stage of your journey. Others may remain much longer, becoming meaningful companions as your path unfolds. Yet, regardless of their duration, each of these connections carries significance. They are appearing now because your energy has changed. You are no longer attracting experiences from a place of emptiness. You are attracting from a place of alignment. And that difference changes everything. There was also a time when your desires felt impossibly distant. Certain dreams seemed disconnected from reality. Certain goals appeared too ambitious, too unlikely, too far beyond your current circumstances. You questioned whether they would ever materialize. You wondered whether they belonged only in your imagination. Yet what is beginning to unfold now challenges those assumptions. The things you once viewed as impossible are gradually becoming tangible. What once existed only as vision is beginning to take shape within your physical reality. This transformation is not occurring because of luck. It is occurring because you have changed. Manifestation was never about convincing the universe to give you something. It was about becoming the version of yourself capable of receiving it. And through your growth, your healing, and your perseverance, that is exactly what you have done. You have developed into someone who can hold what once seemed unreachable. That is why it is now moving toward you. For many years, you may have underestimated your own power. You questioned whether you were strong enough. You doubted your ability to overcome certain obstacles. You underestimated the resilience hidden within you. Yet now a new perspective is emerging. You are beginning to see yourself without the distortions created by fear and insecurity. You are beginning to recognize the strength that carried you through challenges others never witnessed. You are beginning to acknowledge the awareness that allowed you to evolve when remaining unchanged would have been easier. This recognition is not ego. It is truth. It is the clear understanding that you possess far greater capability than you once believed, and that realization changes everything. It changes how you make decisions. It changes how you make decisions. It changes how you interact with the world. It changes what you accept and what you refuse. Most importantly, it frees you from constantly seeking approval from others, because you have finally discovered the validation that comes from within. Eventually, another realization emerges, perhaps the most important of all. You begin seeing your entire journey through a completely different lens. Suddenly, experiences that once felt meaningless reveal their purpose. Delays reveal their wisdom. Struggles reveal their lessons. Waiting reveals its value. The pieces connect. The pattern becomes visible. And for the first time, you understand that nothing was wasted. Not a single challenge. Not a single disappointment. Not a single disappointment. Not a single difficult season. Everything contributed to your growth. Everything played a role in shaping the person you have become. This understanding creates a profound sense of peace because it removes the need to fight against the past. You stop wishing events had unfolded differently. You stop carrying resentment toward chapters that were difficult. You stop questioning why certain things happened because you finally recognize that each experience was necessary. This realization creates closure. It creates gratitude. It creates acceptance. And then there comes a subtle moment, almost impossible to describe yet unmistakable when it arrives. You do not hear words. You do not receive a formal announcement. Yet you feel something profound. It is as if life itself begins reflecting back to you a truth that has been building for a very long time. A truth that says you survived, you endured, you grew, you became, and in that quiet acknowledgement, something inside you finally understands that you have made it through everything that was meant to prepare you for what comes next.